Hey, it is now. So how when you put me in charge, man? What's up, Emerald Coast? This is Wednesday, June the 10th, and my name is Chris Seaman, and I have a guest co-host today, Mr. Jake Mitchell. Thanks for joining us today here at the show, and RJ is here somewhere. I think because of yesterday, we decided since he didn't have the calendar days right, that he's in the Tech Dog house, so he's in the control panel.
Got me in the back.
We gave him look at the job we gave you.
Working all the tech stuff here.
Basically, I looked at RJ and said, "Look, if we're going to be partners,
this is our control room. It's real. It's not virtual. This is what we do."
So here's the punishment: when you screw up the sound, okay, to the point where my mom has to comment that, "Hey guys, I'm learning sign language so I can watch your show." Okay, that I said, "RJ, go to the control room and master all those screens. Master all. Look at that." So. I'm sure by the time we get done with the show today, he'll have it down. So, RJ, is the sound on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. So, going forward, so we'll make this show easy. This is Wednesday. So, Wednesday, between the weekends, which traditionally there was a time in America when there was a lot of sports. You know, Sunday football, basketball games on Friday night kind of thing. And, you know, Saturday afternoon, I remember as a kid, I got to watch, you know, ABC this week in baseball. That was my favorite show when I was a kid, when I had collected baseball cards and all. So Wednesday, we brought in our expert sports social commentary sports analyst, Jake Mitchell. Jake, thank you for being here on a Wednesday to talk about. So here's the big question everybody wants to know. I want to know, are we playing yet?
Not yet.
Dang it. All right, thanks for everybody for being here today.
The big difference, the key difference, though, is that unlike the last two times I've popped on, we've got a date. We have a date. July 31st, we'll have the NBA back. And, you know, we've had some UFC fights, some small stuff. But this is the return of real major sports. It's July 31st, the NBA. They're going to isolate on the Disney resort.
That sucks.
Well, and the biggest question about the whole thing is, you know, in 2 months, we've already seen the narrative change so much. People are getting out. People are you know, things aren't as closed and isolated. So 2 months from now, when Disneyland is partially open, you're going to have a bunch of NBA players stuck in one hotel. The funniest part of this, though, and the NBA can't come out and say what they want to say with this. They can't come out and explicitly state why they're doing this. But the NBA has postponed testing on recreational drugs for the remainder of this season.
Wow.
Again, they can't come out and say it, but basically, if these players are going to be stuck in a hotel room going stir crazy, they're going to at least let them, you know.
But they're not going to check if they let them.
Right.
Okay, fair enough.
Right.
So I have a question to follow up with that. No, actually. I get it. My real question is, they're starting on July 31st. You know, that's usually the NBA season is over. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So this is actually the beginning of is it a continuation of the season, or the previous games that were played are gone? Or do they still count?
Those games still count. So what they're going to do, you're going to have 2 or 3 exhibitions to get things rolling again. And then they'll play, each team's going to play the 22 that were invited. 16 on the West, 9 from the East, and basically the criteria was...
Is that because the West is definitely dominant right now?
Yeah, and
that sucks if you're a Wizards fan.
Yeah. Well, ironically, the Wizards will be making it though.
They were the 9th.
Be out
in the first round.
The Hawks did not. So I'm kind of hurting there. But
how did they decide?
Basically, the teams outside of the top 8 for the playoffs, they said if you're within 6 games. So
they took the standings that were already real there. Okay, fair enough.
So if you're within 6 games, mathematically in 8, you would be able to make the playoffs. And then they will have, you know, barring ties, barring standings, play-in tournament, maybe a 1 or 2 game play-in tournament for that 8th seed. So again, it all depends on how those 8 regular season games go. And then the playoffs will proceed as usual. And those are going to end at the end of October. And this is what excites me as a basketball junkie. Basketball is my favorite sport. the season is going to start July 31st, finish at the end of October. We'll have a couple of months of the off season, and then the next season will start December 1st.
Okay, so that was my follow-up question: is that this comes to an end? This is almost like the off-season training camp for what could be a fantastic 2021 season. Although I will raise, I'm sure there's injury concerns and stuff with the timing of these guys and how they go from giving their bodies time to rest. Clearly, they've had a few months to rest. It was just earlier in this year and going forward. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not complaining. I'm excited. Like you said, my Wizards are at least in there for a minute. They're qualified, but they're not in the top 60. So everybody's going to play a little bit. So if you're one of the other teams not in the 22, are you just done until December 1st?
Yeah, you're
essentially
done.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can still make roster moves.
So Trey, for the Hawks, you know, rising superstar point guard that everybody was really starting to enjoy becoming what he was expected to be. He's done. He's resting. He's doing nothing but getting. You know, until December 1. Okay, fair. And I mean, it's not fair, but okay. I see what you're doing.
I mean, the Hawks had the #1 strength of schedule. So I'm going to argue that they were better than their record said. But at the same time, John Collins was suspended for a long time.
Sure.
And that was his choice. He's the one that chose.
Did we just go right into Hawks analysis?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm sorry. Nobody cares about the Hawks.
It's all right. Nobody cheers for the Hawks.
I'm on an island here. It's all I got.
Well, between the two of us, we have a combined 12 wins, maybe.
Yeah. Exactly.
So fair enough.
Exactly.
So what else besides the NBA? What else can we tell us about what's going on in sports?
Yesterday, while you guys were on the air, it was announced that Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic would fight. So that's our first real massive UFC fight announcement. So it's not.
Will that be in front of fans?
August 15th is the date. There's not 100% sure where we'll be at that point. There have been some fights announced for Fight Island, which is the island in Abu Dhabi that Dana White has rented out to fight to have fights. So. You know, again, there's a lot of the UFC stuff lately has just been kind of minor, you know, ESPN cards, not huge, massive pay-per-views, but
that aspect of having fans screaming, I don't think, you know, that's one of the things we take for granted. You know, home court advantage is a big deal. The 12th man in a stadium, you know, places like watching the Golden State Warriors, that's super, super loud in there. And it makes it, when you go to Yankee Stadium, you know, something, so that affects the play.
If you're the Bucks, I mean, the Bucks fought all year for the 1 seed, and now they don't get that home court.
So does that affect a UFC fighter?
I think it does a lot. A couple of things. Number one, the only people you can hear talking in the arena are your trainers, but also commentary. So when Daniel Cormier, for example, who is, you know, one of the greatest UFC fighters ever, when he's on color and he's analyzing your fight while you're in the octagon, you can hear him.
You can hear him.
So, you know, as opposed to where you've had like a huge crowd and it's just the trainer yelling, now it's your trainers yelling at you and Rogan and Cormier and analyzing the fight. So it's strategically been interesting. But the best, my favorite moment from last weekend, because we did have some UFC last weekend, the punches, you hear them so clearly. If you haven't seen Sean, look it up. Sean O'Malley, the audio of Sean O'Malley knocking out Eddie Wineland is crazy. The snap of the punch is fantastic. That's the one advantage to no crowd.
I get, you know, one of the cool things, the premise of the show, you know, and I'll keep saying it, is the post-pandemic life. And we're talking about it in the life of sports. And I remember I was watching a game where they were trying to play without fans. And listening to the sneakers hit the floor. It takes me back to, you know, I played basketball and I was never around fans watching me play ball, probably for good reason. But that, you know, that hearing the sneakers, if you're a fan of that sport, you love it because it tells you how hard they're working and cutting. So I can imagine hearing how hard somebody makes contact in a fight elicits a different emotional response, both for the fighter and the viewer. In this case. So, well, I'm a baseball fan. So give me some hope. You got any hopes for some baseball?
I got no hope for baseball.
You know, go ahead.
Well, the owners, the plan the owners sent on Tuesday to the players was just the same offer that the players had already rejected. It's just that it was a different total of games. But the percentages were still the same money-wise. It was still, I just, for whatever reason, baseball cannot get it figured out.
They can't despite it's like they can't stop tripping on themselves, I think.
Yeah.
I as a baseball fan, when I started seeing that plan, and I heard Mike Trouts of the world come out and go, I'm not going to the pitcher for the Rays came out and said, I forget his name off the top of my head, but when he came out and said, the risk of me playing is equally high despite COVID.
Yeah.
And he made a great point. So he's not going to go out there and play for less money because there's not fans in the stands and there's not beer being sold and hot dogs being sold. It's all about the viewer ratings that this is about. This is one of those things where the virus really is exposing the weaknesses to a lot of the systems that we as a society have accepted and we take for granted. And now you got baseball players going, making $40 million a year, but it puts in perspective the power of the fan.
Yeah.
And when you hear fans go, I don't want to buy season tickets because I don't want to spend, it's $200 for me to take my family or to go to a game, park my car, buy them a hot dog and all, and it's becoming priced out of the market of the average fan.
Yeah. And
it becomes so corporate. Well, corporate is okay with viewer because they just want State Farm just wants not to pick on State Farm, but I do because a very good friend of mine is an agent, so I pick on him.
Well, I'm gonna chime in here just a little bit as well because the way I see it, back when the music industry was all of a sudden having to deal with online
sales,
music and people downloading and stuff like that, their whole mechanism of monetizing had to change and switch. And I think the same thing is going to happen with sports, where now more sports are going to be streaming, and you're going to have ways for the fans to be able to interact in the stadium virtually.
Certainly.
Maybe even like robotic. You can rent a robot to come up and down and do the waves.
All right, stop, tech nerd. RJ makes a great point until he becomes tech nerd. But that's a great analysis or a great analogy. Prince was one of the first people to embrace this. I'm going online despite the producer. But the difference I think there is that's an artist going, here's my art, pay me, as opposed to Mike Trout going, pay me to hit a home run. There's a big difference.
Yeah, and if we bring up the music, I'm a big Metallica guy.
Okay,
20 years later, can we not acknowledge that Lars was right?
Yes.
Because musicians, it's even harder. It's always been hard to make a living as a musician.
Yeah.
It's even harder now. Guys or bands get, to split among the 5 or 6 guys in the band, 0.0001 cent per stream.
Yeah.
So, I mean, change is not always great, and I think the important thing as we kind of navigate change is, making sure that there isn't a party like the players getting screwed over. And that's the thing about baseball that is so hard is these guys already have a limited window, 5 years to 10 years, if you're lucky.
That's right.
Owners, you own the team forever. You buy it, and unless you're Donald Sterling in the Clippers, unless you say some really stupid stuff and get yourself kicked out, then you own the team forever, and you're making money forever. Yeah. So that's why I'm going to side with the players, because inevitably when change like this happens, whether it's sports, whether it's music, it's the people working the hardest that get screwed over the most.
Yeah, I always side with the players because I'll take your concept right there a little further. Yeah. Ed O'Bannon did a great thing, I believe, when he stepped up and took on the world, saying, I want to be paid for the use of my name on the back of a video game.
Yeah.
And so this now has come full circle. All we can do are play video games. Yeah. Right? That's all these athletes, ESPN was actually showing players playing video games of themselves. So again, whether you call it the weak underbelly or the economic structure of the industry of the sport, baseball to me is the one that's it's so ancient in its foundings. Listen, I say this with the utmost love for baseball.
I'm baseball too.
Baseball is a has a lot of spirituality to me. It does represent the history of Americana, so to speak. So as I speak ill of it, I do about my country when need to as well, because it's a growing process. But I think the aspects, the pillars that hold up the industry will never come together in this mindset without it being completely a clean slate. And baseball players, like, pick on Mike Trout, maybe your $40 million, if there's not fans there watching, maybe your $40 million is really only worth $4 now.
Yeah.
But how does that affect players? Go, what am I going to go play? All of a sudden, the kid's playing remote controls and doing drone racing becomes the most valuable athlete in America. It's growing. You know, and so fans in the stands, and whether you hear it, I heard by rumor there was like NASCAR races. Is that true? Are they racing?
Yeah, NASCAR's back.
And so fans in the stands? No.
Yeah.
So is the money there the same? See, there the sponsorship's a little different because it's all about the viewing.
Exactly.
Daytona makes money with a 200. I've had the pleasure of going to Daytona. It's an amazing
that's bucket list, man.
And it's an amazing experience. You will not see any brighter colors. You will not hear a louder sound unless you stand behind a jet engine, which I had the pleasure of doing that too. But 43 cars turning those engines on at the same time. You can't help but laugh. Your ribs feel it in the stands. And it's an amazing experience. But now think about it in terms of money. You know, Jimmy Johnson's going around that track picking on him because he's going to retire here. You know, the logo is what pays his money.
Exactly.
It's not the fans in the stands because that money goes to the track. So I'm curious, you know, if the track's probably just happy to have something where they get some rent money. And this is another example of how sports is changing. What other sports do you want to highlight that's happening right now to give us some hope?
I mean, the thing that I'm excited about, too, is that it looks like football-wise we're going to be on schedule.
Oh, yeah, there's football.
Yeah.
I forgot about football.
We've had a couple of stories in the last couple of days from leagues, from college football, or from the NFL and college football that say, you know, we're going to play it safe. We're going to have social distancing in the facilities. We're going to, you know, let's try to stagger when position groups come in so that, you know, maybe you get your quarterbacks, then your receivers, then your linebackers, so you're never too compact. So the leagues are playing it safe and the conferences are playing it safe, but right now it looks like the plan is to come back on schedule.
What happens when they get in the huddle?
That is, I think, where people are kind of being, are kind of being optimistic. And the other part of this is, I mean, you think back to 2 months ago. Where were we at 2 months ago? People were buying toilet paper. All the toilet paper in the store.
Was that 2 months ago?
Yeah. It feels like forever ago.
I thought that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, 2 months ago was the toilet paper thing. And I use that point of reference to say 2 months from now, that's when the NBA is going to be starting. And then you're going to have another month until football comes back.
Right.
So in the next 3 months, we don't know how much things are going to change. We may be at a mindset, right or wrong, where, okay, we'll fill the stands and we'll play games. And it
despite people getting possibly sick.
And that's, you know, that's where the debate kind of comes in is, you know, is there a fear of a second wave? Is there, you know, what do we do with the stadiums?
Not RJ's wave, we're talking the viral wave.
Right.
Gotcha.
But, you know, so I think it's...
Sorry, nerd guy. You're the one that brought up the robotic wave.
Hey, I'm in the room here. I think
you should patent that concept, though. There might be something there.
But I will say this, too. I think, right or wrong, nationally, I think a lot of people have just gotten tired of being stuck inside.
I feel like we're willing football to come back.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think whether or not there's a threat of any sort of spread or a second wave, people are tired of being inside. And I see more and more sentiment every day of people that are saying, you know, I just want it to be normal again.
Right.
And like I said, right or wrong, I'm not really going to, you know, I won't get into the weeds on that debate, but just standing back and observing the way that people talk and the way that the narrative has kind of moved a little bit, you know, I think by September, we probably are going to have football. And, you know, I think a lot of people are willing to go into stadiums and stand close to people.
Right. So, you know, for the record, we've highlighted it here on the show. Locally, you know, schools are starting to bring kids out to practice. I mean, you know, and the kids are, you know, scientifically speaking, medically speaking, less at risk. They're young. They can fight off a disease and all. And you know, and I am one person that wants sports to be back. And one of the things I really want to see is I used to play tennis. I was more of a racquetball player, but I don't see why tennis isn't being played. Now I heard one of the top guys, Nadal, made a comment. He goes, I don't see it coming back anytime soon because they have to travel. And those guys, as they go from one country to the next country, is an issue. So maybe if they can travel and then quarantine in that country, and then they're there for 2 weeks anyway for a tournament. I'd really love to see them get back to, because that's the one-on-one. They are socially distanced on the opposite side of the court. The ball boys are kind of socially distanced. Everybody is.
Exactly.
It's just a question of now you're back to the stands and the fans. Now the players thrive on that in that one-on-one environment, just like UFC.
Yeah.
But for the fans, is that an issue? But then you come back to, that's great viewership. So that's where the money truly comes for them to have $3 million for first place in the U.S. Open going to the men's winner. Yes, women should have the same prize money as men. I'm just saying that out loud now, because I think it's the case.
It's a given, isn't it?
Well, it
still amazes me that that's a debate.
It still amazes me. I think there you see the I want to say differences of play that. It is just the difference of the physiological being of the bodies out there doing what they do, but the passion, the aggression, the talent, the skill set is equal to their own way. So watching it is to me, I love nothing more when the Australian Open's on and I wake up at the crack of dawn for no reason, but I'm like, I can watch the finals of the Australian Open. And I did do that this past year.
That's how I am with Wimbledon.
Same theory. Yes.
I was doing radio a couple years ago for Wimbledon. Got up, went into the studio. It was 6 o'clock at the beginning of a match. Had the match on the entire 3-hour show I did. Drove home listening to the match on the radio.
That's right.
Got to the house and watched the match for another 2 hours because that was how long, just back and forth and back and forth. I don't remember who it was, but it was an insanely long Wimbledon match a couple years ago. I could probably Google it. But no, I'm right there with you. I'll take any sports right now. I'll take tennis. I'll take marble racing.
Now you brought up the big one now, because it brings back to the history of the sports on this show comes from our godfather, Rob Brown.
Oh, yeah.
We do know that Rob has gone on to bigger and better things with the 4-letter network that shall be known as ESPN. I said it because he's on right now while we're doing this show. So I wanted 2 things here. One, I thank Rob for inspiring us. So you brought up marble racing.
Yeah.
Rob is a huge marble racing fan. He, in a previous career that he had affiliated with me, that's all we watched. There was football on. I thought Rob was a football fan.
Yeah.
Okay. There was baseball on. It's that time of the year where it's overlapping everything. And I walk into the facility and there is marble racing on every TV. Every customer has got money on the bar. Okay, betting on colors of marbles. So that's my experience with Rob Brown. How he got that job at ESPN, I'm not sure. So since he's on opposite us right now, would you like to say anything about Rob? Because he probably won't see it till later.
Rob, rise up. Your quarterback is insane. I don't understand what Drew Brees is trying to do.
That's a good one.
I am happy that he is leading to the
he's woken
the self-destruction of the Saints. So I don't have anything really to say about Rob.
Self-destruction of the Saints.
I just think that Jake and I kind of helped Rob get his job.
Oh, you get all the credit, RJ.
Our Super Bowl prediction show. I think that was it.
That was it. So hopefully, that'll inspire him to come back to talk some smack.
Listen, Rob was doing sports media in this area for a long time. He paired up with me. A couple years later, he gets the ESPN job. So maybe I got to take.
He comes and bartends for me, and I get a show. Hey, brother, that's all I say.
There we go.
Now sanitize.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right, I think that's the end of the show. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think that's the end of the show. RJ, is that it? Are we done?
Yeah, I think we did.
Okay, just making sure you didn't have it. You did most of the talking, buddy. I wanted to make sure that you were finished. So
yes, co-host. Yeah, Jake, you got yourself a job. We'll bring you in RJ, maybe we ought to do this on a regular Wednesday thing.
You look really cool in that control room. Why I don't get paid if we have such a budget for all that tech stuff in that room? I don't understand why this is just not right. I need a better agent.
Does that not look like a sports book back there?
Did you see the horse racing on the third TV from the third over to the right, just over his head? That's I think that's Pimlico.
I was starting to adjust to the lack of sports. I can feel the withdrawals already now. I mean, just the faint. I watched Uncut Gems the other day, and they go into the sports book, and I'm just, oh no, I can't.
So everybody understands this man right here. The website you do and the writing you do is a lot of prediction.
Yep.
For a previous addiction of mine with some gambling. But I will still, as a bar guy, I will talk about it. So we'll bring that back. Are you ready to start making some predictions on some sports? Is that what's really in your blood?
I'm ready, man. Yeah. I am so freaking ready.
So next week, come back and let's lay out over-unders on when baseball is said. You don't have to answer today. I want you to think about it. You make the prediction. I'm going to make the bet.
He's setting you up. He's setting you up.
That is what that's called. There's a term in the industry right here about the lead of the issue. Look at the look on his face. He's already pressured.
Because I'm gonna have to be a downer about baseball.
Let's save it for next Wednesday, and say one of the. If you go to Vegas to Caesar right now, there is a category that says will not be played ever.
Ever.
And there's odds on that. I'm talking language gambling here.
Yeah,
there's odds on that. The odds of it playing tomorrow are far worse than it being played ever. But somewhere in the middle, Jake Mitchell is going to pick a day, and I'm going to take over or under. Is that fair?
It's fair. Okay. That date is going to be very far off.
All right. Well, you start thinking about it. We're going to do it next week. Hey, everybody, thank you for being here today. Jake, thanks for being on the show.
No problem, man.
RJ, I think you might be allowed back out of the tech doghouse, assuming my mom gives me the thumbs up.
Not quite yet, because when we want to end the show, Jake, you're going to have to hit that open video button.
Okay. Before you do that, stay rational, my friends.
Peace.
See ya again.
That was awesome, guys.
Especially the ripping on Rob. Yes. You didn't see that coming. You don't say anything about Rob.